Welcome back, guys, to another episode of the Sports Card Podcast. I'm your host, the Card Boss. Today, I bring back my friend Jason from Yellow Egg Collectibles. How's it going, man?
Hey guys, thanks again, Pang Ming, for having me on your podcast. The last time was a great chat. Like we even had to watch our time, how long we chatted.
Yeah,
But
man.
yeah, thanks again. Looking forward to just sharing whatever that is needed. Yeah.
Awesome. The main reason why I got you back for today is because today we're sitting on Tuesday night, which is just like what, couple more days to the KL Southeast Asia Card Convention, SEACC. Did I get it right? Sure. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, quite a mouthful, right? That one. So you're gonna set up. We're gonna share a table again this time around. I don't have that much. In fact, I don't have anything to sell for this particular show. You're doing most of the selling. We're gonna be there behind the table again, and hopefully it's gonna be an exciting 3 days this weekend.
Yep.
Yeah.
Looking forward.
So I just want to get, what are you feeling about this show? I mean, there's been a lot of marketing on this. We can see that the IG has been quite active and things like that, and we get to see all sorts of vendors coming in. So what's your general feeling about this upcoming show? Are you excited? What kind of feeling are you having at the moment?
I guess I am encouraged that the organizers decided to double down on where they left off from last year. Because last year was like the first one that was in Malaysia, especially for any other card aside from TCG Pokemon base, right? Although, there will definitely be TCG and Pokemon around, but last year felt like for a lot of sports cards collectors, like at least there is a place locally to look forward to perhaps at least once a year
Mm-hmm.
rather than our usual small coffee meetups here and there. And
Yep.
after a while, it's like, I know your cards, you know my cards. And so happen, I love your collection, but they're not the players that I'm going after. So after a while, the deals dry up because there's like, not much new stuff going on with the people that we know, which is a
Mm.
handful. So with a show like that, I think the first one last year was a really good attempt. I think it was kind of like a common understanding among the vendors, especially non-TCG, that we also wanted to feedback to the organizers that, thanks for doing this. We know it takes a lot on their part to do it. Thanks for bringing in some partners, sponsors, exhibitors, and all that, especially from overseas as well. So looks like they felt good with the crowd turnout from last year. Then I guess they also got some significant partnerships with other players in Asia. So I'm encouraged because there's a little bit more connection within the region, and we were aware of like the Macau show and all that, and I guess they've been trying to work out something together. So hence the renaming to from Superfractor to SEASCC.
Right.
And yeah, it seems like you're doubling down on it and getting in, the big names like I think Fanatics is coming as well this time. Encouraging for us, especially. I, for one, wanted to, get a larger booth this time.
Mm-hmm.
And on our end, we do collaboration with as many people we know in the hobby that we feel comfortable, setting up tables together and whatnot.
Yep.
Basically to like just, show the organizers that there is a scene here. You just need to connect the people. And I would love the SEA to remain in Malaysia, remain in KL for the region, right? So it's like Southeast Asia. So the local support has to be there so that we keep this event here rather than it probably going to a neighboring country. For me,
Yeah.
speaking Malaysian, I really, really hope that continues here lah. Yeah. So basically
I
that's what I see. Yeah.
I guess it helps, Of course, I'm definitely in support of it being in our own backyard, no traveling required,
Yeah.
save a lot of time and money, obviously, right? So,
Here to do collab. So,
yeah,
yeah.
but realistically, of course, I think KL is quite a central hub within this region. We have good infrastructure, cost-wise is quite alright, so and it's of course ease of travel for all the different parts of Southeast Asia to come in. Whereas if you consider having it in other locations aside from Singapore, I think that some of the infrastructure may be a bit more challenging.
Yeah.
So even last time when when I was quite active with Magic, and then we used to have regional tournaments in this Southeast Asia. Usually it's between Singapore and KL. So, and if it's for those reasons I mentioned, I guess the organizers have a good reason to pick KL and to stick with KL. Provided that like what you mentioned, the response continue to be very active, not just from local participants but also from the around the region as well. Cool. So what's with that? That's very encouraging. What you just said. So, but what's your general expectation like? At the end of the day, this show would accomplish once it's all said and done.
I guess for the local scene, for a lot of local players, there are many new shops, many new setups, at least in KL, as far as I know, that probably never been to a show of that size. Not even talking about setting up, like never even went as a
Attend.
participant. Yeah. Like kind of like that was the main reason why we went for the first Macau one, because we've not
Right.
been to any big shows before. And it's an eye opener, and it's a necessary kind of like, stepping into it
Yep.
before you even think about what you want to do you want to set up, how do you want to position yourself in the hobby. So I think for a lot of the younger guys, especially, like they're excited because they never got this opportunity to go to a show of this size,
Mm.
this mix, as well as getting the official, like the big boys to set up booths.
Yep.
It's different from the smaller shows. Smaller shows is a lot of like local community, like tournament based, like especially TCG, they'll have a tournament
Right.
in house and they try and get, whoever they already know. This one is like from all over, plus getting international vendors in. That, to me, that's the main difference. Like you get to see the hobby from different angles. You get to see people flying in from elsewhere, and how people make deals, what currency do they use, what exchange rate do they use. So I
Yep.
think it's a really good setup for the maturing hobby scene here, for a lot of people to gain experience, ask questions. I think the hobby is pretty open. People are more than willing to share their experience. So to me, nothing replaces that. Like intermingling, getting experience from one another, sharing your journeys, how you start your hobby, and how long you've been in it, and what
Yep.
you're doing now, and stuff like that. Yeah,
Yep. Awesome. Yeah, that's I guess the main thing lah, because even though we're not, Southeast Asia is big lah, but and we feel very connected, but still yet feel a bit distant at the same time, right? Because it's still different countries. And I spoke to Carlos about this in our last session, whereby he's traveling around. He's going from Philippines to Hong Kong to Jakarta, and then now to KL. So he's flying around, just to do deals. And the main reason why he doesn't mind doing it is because he just want to get the different, to meet different people, to get different vibes. And but that's very deal specific, or one, small show, for example. But this show, this is where everybody comes together at the same time, and that's where you get to see the different kind of interactions, right? So we are very accustomed to our own local guys, how we hang out, how we talk to, but being around people from other parts of the region is completely different, the way they do things.
correct, correct,
Awesome.
exactly.
Awesome. So maybe let's talk a bit about something more specific to Yellow Egg. Okay. So what's your strategy, if you can share, going into this show? I'm pretty sure you have some things that you plan already, what you want to do, what kind of stuff you want to sell, what kind of cards you want to bring. So share with me or share with us. What's your strategy going into this show?
Yeah, sure. Um, Initially, I was just going to fall back on where my family collection comes from. So a lot of piece, a lot of vintage, a little bit early 2000s, specifically NBA, sprinkle of some other sports here and there.
Yep.
So that's still the backbone, I believe. Like, I think it's not great to, just jump on every hype train and then you kind of thin yourself out. The hobby is expanding at a rapid pace. In terms of just trading card collectibles, right? There are a lot more new IPs that have entered the scene, new franchises that are being revived because maybe like Disney buys them out, then they revive the brand. Like Star Wars is a good example. There's a lot of new products, so eventually when there's new products, there will be new collectors.
Yep.
So I am open to all the new stuff, but I'm definitely new as well, right? In those things. So I don't want to like stock up like a lot of products and not know who the market is, not know the demography and stuff. So I went with just having a corner three table first.
Mhm.
I kind of booked that without knowing I would have enough cards or slabs to bring. Because that was my usual setup. Like, go
Right.
overseas. You can't really carry too much stuff. So just selectively whatever
Right.
slabs you think you want to bring. But this one is like home ground, right? So I'm like,
Right.
okay, let me just get the tables first and let's see what happens by, collaborating collaborating with, people like yourself and a few others as well. So turns out that, yeah, just going to play to that strength, I guess, because that's something that I enjoy in a hobby,
Mhm.
meeting people and wondering like which angle are they coming from in a hobby. And a lot of times I think people get cold feet where even two hobby shops that are close together, in location, people just assume that they are competitors.
Mm.
But for this kind of scene in Malaysia, like I don't think there's a room for that. Like now,
Mm.
everyone has to kind of play to each other's strengths, and nobody can tackle everything lah, in a hobby.
Yep.
So I feel good doing that. Yourself, we will largely be kind of like having a lot of interaction with, especially collectors, I believe, or some resellers as well, because some people might want to, offload their inventory and stuff, and they might be
Mm.
looking people pick them up. So I enjoyed that in Hong Kong, and also learning some tips from you, like when collectors come, they bring their cards, and it's like, how do you get the conversations going, seeing what they have, whether
Yep.
or not you actually have the available cash to make the moves. But
Yep.
because the 3-day event, you could continue the negotiations the next day, the last day.
Correct.
So doing that, I'm looking forward for that. And then I'm also working with a local card shop where so happen actually is someone that used to be one of my staff in my restaurants.
Okay.
And then he went to IT, save a bunch of money, and then open his own TCG shop. So
Right.
we just recently connected like late last year. So that's where I collect my CGC grading submissions.
Right.
That's also where if I have sealed products, I just park it there, consignment basis and things. So we're used to doing that. So I'm like, I've got 3 tables. You're a new
Right.
coffee shop. Just come, lah. Just come take one table. Bring some of your singles. Bring some of your sealed products.
Right.
Uh, Meet people, and then there's another shop as well in Starbucks. So it's like, okay, it's great because we get the Starbucks people to be there and
Mhm.
go with community of people come and visit at the event, just to show that there is a scene in Setapak, not just the usual suspects in Damansara, Subang,
Yep.
those places. So there are 3 new shops in Setapak. So
Right.
for this one, like 2 of them will be with us at our tables.
Right.
So
Right.
I'm like, yeah, whatever stock you have, you keep selling to the same people in the same area, right? After a while, like there's no more movement or there's no more buyers
Correct.
because the same thing.
Correct.
I mean, that's the physical limitation of our hobby, right? So you kind of need to keep bringing it to a new market, so to speak, if you can. So I'm like, perfect, like, you have thousands of people coming for the 3 days. Instead
Right.
of just holding yourself up in your shop and hoping people come by, and it's slow. Like you slowly need to build your following, your community. Why don't you just tell all the people that have been coming to your shop, come for the event, you know? Come for the event, go and see all the other vendors, go and see how big the scene is, and then who knows, people make decisions like, okay, there's a huge market out there. I'll be a bit serious with my collection, and
Yep.
we've all been there. Like at some point, we collect for the fun of it, and then after that, like, hey, actually, if I seriously think about this and organize my inventory and place values and all of that, it could turn up to something, right? So a lot of them are younger guys, so I feel like we're talking like old uncles really.
So you kind of like you're letting them, tag along on your big area space lah, so to speak lah.
Plus, it's not my strength. I don't have a lot of sealed products. I don't
Right.
intend to open a shop on my own.
Right.
And since
Right.
they've already made those moves and TCG is alive and running, I'm like,
Mm.
bring your stuff, and the our corner could look a bit more lively as well, instead of just us with some slabs and buying cards, right? So
Right.
so
Right.
at least a little bit for everyone. So if like say parents come with their kids, there's like some cute Pokemon EV something, and there's
Mm.
something for them. And then maybe the dads will be like, hey, I used to watch NBA, or I used to watch wrestling or whatever, and there's the sports cards there.
Yep.
Uh, Kind of like it can be a family affair for participants as well. Like there's something for everyone. So I think that would be interesting dynamics that I've
Yeah.
never had at card shows on my own. So I'm looking forward to that. Yeah.
Yep, I mean that's a quite an interesting strategy that you chose, because I guess a lot of people, like your friend, the Starbucks shop, maybe on his own, it may feel a bit intimidating to get his own table.
Yes.
Maybe inexperience is one, maybe or the cost could be a bit more prohibitive, right? So I also worry, not sure what to do. So having to latch on, with somebody of experience, will actually help them, get their feet wet in a sense. And for your case, what you just mentioned, it makes your stall looks bigger and more lively, correct?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But, awesome strategy actually. Yeah. So as you mentioned, for me, like I told you, way in advance that I wasn't going to bring any of my cards back from the US. So the entire table space was you guys, but I wanted to, have a spot whereby, I could be, like for me to be camped out there so people could come and look for me. So it's quite obvious, because we worked well together previously. So I wanted to just make sure we share a table. So a combination of you, me, plus what you just mentioned on more stuff behind us. It's gonna perhaps make our corner one of the places people would say, hey, you gotta go over to that corner over there because there's lots of stuff happening.
Yeah.
Cool. It's looking forward to that, man. I didn't see exactly where we were in the floor plan. I know there's like 3 halls. One is a tournament area. 2 of them is exhibition halls. Are we in a good spot?
Would hope so. From the plan, we are in hall 1.
Yeah.
So if we're talking about utility, I think hall 3 has a little bit more advantage because like the charging stations are over that side.
Right.
So
Right.
like it or not, people are going to run out of juice and people will be going to that side.
Right. Right.
So, but we're in
Right.
hall 1, but hall 1 looks a little bit more premium, I guess, because from what I look at the total vendor list, right,
Mm,
hall 1 has a lot of those who take 2 or 3 tables.
right.
So the bigger table.
I feel in some ways now going for more events, especially bigger events, the halls are huge.
Right.
And sometimes it can get really overwhelming, even for participants, right? They go
Right.
and if the tables are everyone takes one table, and like
Yep.
a place, one hall is 50 tables next to each other.
Yep.
It can get a little bit like
Messy.
overstimulating. Yeah, messy, overstimulating and stuff. I mean,
Yep.
maybe some people like that. There's a lot of energy in the room and all that. But I think
Mhm.
if you wanna really, mingle, really get people into the hobby, really get really good deals done, right? I think we're in a good spot because I saw the plan is like we're having 3 tables.
Mhm.
And then our buddies, Sean and those guys from Data Rate, they're having 3 tables as well.
Yep.
And then some others, they're having like 3 tables, 2 tables. And then concept grading by Nick, he's having 2 tables. And that's just for consultation on grading.
Yep. Yep.
So I feel like there's quite a good mix of vendors in our hall, especially. Like I'm really excited for that because everyone is actually pretty strong. Like those others that I've met in previous shows, some of them also made their way to Macau and Hong Kong.
Yep.
So there's some familiarity there in terms of like for us where now I'm getting these few local card shops to also bring some of the retail products.
Yep.
There's also that, yes, I would love to see that, but there's also a little bit risk on the safety aspect, right? Like
Mm,
those are not my products and I'm asking them to bring. So it helps already knowing all the people that are beside you, behind you and all that. I
right.
think our hall has quite a good mix. I'm looking forward to it. Yeah.
Cool. So how about okay? So I guess we got the products sorted. So for your case one, I guess you'll be focused on the slaps and singles mostly, lah, I suppose.
Yep.
I'm guessing so, yeah.
Yeah. So what's your, if you can share, what's your pricing strategy like for this show in particular? So obviously, normally people say, price at comms or a percentage slightly below comms or above comms, not sure, right? So what's your pricing strategy for the stuff that you're gonna put on sale?
Good question. I think it's something that we're always constantly navigating. Plus, the market's always changing.
Mm,
I think for us at this point in time, like even the currency exchange is going to play a factor. USD against the ringgit, it's a little bit different than earlier this year or late last year, right? So that has been taken into account. And then it's like timing wise, like what cards would you be more keen to move? Which ones
Yep.
you probably want to hold on a bit longer? In the middle of the playoffs for NBA, so that's a huge one as well, I believe.
Yep.
But for pricing, I think it really comes down to you knowing your stuff and you knowing in your inventory, right? Like when did you pick them up? How long
Right.
have you held them? Which cards are you zoned in on? This is purely for flipping, purely for reselling.
Yep.
And which ones are like, okay, this one's I really held it for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. I don't mind holding it longer.
Mm,
For me, I've been, the past year, that's basically what I've been mentally like navigating to know when's okay to give a bit more leeway in the margins. And like I just want to get the deals done, build network with people, and which pieces are like maybe like anchor pieces in my family's collection where they
Right.
take a bit more time to discuss with my cousins, with
Right.
my brother. Those we're not rushing. Those we only like go at like a price we think that you know it's good for us. But everything
Right.
else, like really knowing your stuff, really knowing like did I pick this whole thing up in a bulk, in a lot? Then it's much easier to negotiate when people come to the table and like you could even initiate the deals, right? They maybe like look keenly on like few pieces, but you kind of know they're working with your budget. So you're
Right.
like, are you interested in both? We could probably work out a deal on both instead of just you looking at a price tag and figuring you can only afford one.
Correct.
So I think there's a lot of that where you really got to do more deals in order to know when to engage in, you know, giving good deals or giving a freebie or working on like maybe they're interested in five pieces, but you kind of just need to, as long as you lock in the main piece, right? Like have an anchor piece where like, okay, that one I have to get fetch a price on that.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else I can bundle in because I know when I got cards, I know when probably I got it. Let's say you bought a PSA Gem 10 already. You kind of know like, okay, there's only so much you can work with
Right.
price. But if it's like something where um you've got multiple duplicates because you pull it out from packs or boxes and
So
then
you
you
tend to able to move it
yeah
a bit more lax in the pricing lah.
so I think there's a lot of that which to me is kind of like a craft
Of
in
course, of
yeah like
course.
you're one of them. I think you know exactly what I mean. So
Yeah.
but that's the fun part to me.
I guess the reason why I ask is because, when you watch on YouTube, some of the US shows, right? There's a lot of negotiation happening, right? People start at this price, they chop, 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 they're trying to meet somewhere in the middle or something like that. Lah. Okay. When we went to Hong Kong last year, didn't have a lot of that. Yes, sometimes the opening price or the sticker price they put there is already sometimes maybe on the higher side because you expect to be negotiated down. But sometimes that kind of sticker also, prohibits people from even wanting to ask or to inquire. Okay. So now coming to the KL show, because I didn't set up in the last KL show, you set up in the last KL show, and I don't know what's the sentiment of the local. Let's talk about local people first, right? The local people, the visitors who walk past your store, and then they want to keen on checking out some of your stuff. Are they the kind whereby when they look at your card and they see the sticker there, and then they will ponder whether or not they want to pay the price, or will they straight away dive into a negotiation mode?
I think I'll split the answering the question into like locals and foreigners.
Yes.
Locals, like you said, we're a little bit more cautious with our buying power, I guess. It's not that we don't want to buy, it's just that I need to choose which one I want because I don't have
Yep.
all the budget in the world. So I think people are just making sure that if I do pick up something from this table today, I want to pick up something nice that fits my budget, right? So I find that probably that's the reason why I do mix up my inventory, especially like with home ground advantage. I'll bring a lot more budget slabs
Right.
than I would like if I'm going overseas. So the higher end ones, those who knows their stuff or those who already have been a hobby, like they will know. They will know. Okay, this piece, these are what piece from what sets. Price, fine. They understand sticker prices and all that. Then we
Mm-hmm.
can straight it out. Like, is this your trade value or is this full cash or whatever, right? But foreigners, they will straight away gun for what they're looking for and what they know.
Right.
Doesn't matter the price, they will still ask you first. Is this recent sold? Is this what?
Right.
Whatever.
So you're
They can,
saying that for the reasonable price stuff, or the lower end slabs you call it, right? So you're gonna price them really well so that they will appear to be affordable or within reach. But for the bigger stuff, you would price it higher, knowing that whoever will be interested in these cards would know the prices and will adjust accordingly.
yeah. Uh, and I find myself end up being also a little bit more. I'll take my time to negotiate
All right.
on the higher end stuff, and plus knowing who are the ones coming. Like I think you were there last year when our China friend brought
Yes.
card
Yes.
was looking at
Yes.
one of my
Yes.
cards. It's more having a read of the room as well. Like we kind of
Mm-hmm.
know there was only like probably 5 or 6 other tables that have anything NBA. So that card I probably had the only one in the show, right? So
Mm-hmm.
and he was obviously interested. I know he's a Jason Kidd
Mm-hmm.
collector. I know that he looked for credential, and if nobody picks it up, he'll probably come back on the third day and still negotiate on the third day. So I didn't really like give him like, I'm desperate to sell this on the first day.
Right.
But again, that's it could have worked the other way where he's like, I don't want to talk to this guy already.
Yeah, I'm tired already. I'm not coming back. I'm not coming back already.
Yeah. I guess if it was at Macau or something, I probably wouldn't do that because there's probably another 100 good Jason Kidd cards that he could have gotten as well.
Right, right, right.
Yeah, since he was in KL and he was the first one, and
Mm,
he's from Krabi, so he also wants to, show the support to the organizers.
right.
So probably played on that a little bit. And that was one of the pieces, like I mentioned earlier, that it's a family piece. And we pulled that when we were young.
Hmm.
Uh don't have a duplicate, we only have one, and it created a gem 10. So it's like, okay, let's not simply move this at the first
Right.
ask. But everything else, like back to your question on how do I price, especially the more affordable stuff, people actually wants to pick up something. So I realized like last year, thankfully I did that. I'm like, okay, we got home advantage. Just bring as much stuff as I can.
Mm,
So even like the current stuff, like Steph Curry on it, they're not like rare cards. They're not rare
yep.
inserts, right?
Yep.
Just a little bit, shiny here and there. I just price them like 150, 200 ringgit. And yeah, that went well. So people were like, older guys were going on nostalgia, like, oh, I've never ever had a MJ slab or Kobe slab.
Right.
I might pick up one now, and I don't need to think like, do I need to budget for this? Do I need to check my bank account? Do I need to discuss with my wife or and all that? It's
Yep.
just like, oh, iconic MJ photo. I remember this.
Yeah.
Look, okay, it's not a PSA 10, never mind. Just 150, 200 ringgit. I can pick this up now. So it's a mix. It's a mix, in my opinion,
No,
on the
no,
price.
I mean that's excellent because I do have a lot of friends, right? So they are not card collectors, okay, but they enjoy, maybe if they could, if let's say when they come to these kind of shows, which I know some of them are coming, because it's something that they can just take a drive and then go over, right? And if they feel that there's something that, hey, I don't mind picking this up for 150 ringgit, a Messi or something like that, which it may not be a very rare card, but at least they can own a slab of a Messi which they can display on their table or something like that. So you're gonna get a lot of these kind of crowd, I think, in KL.
Some
Yeah.
they're not just card collectors, like just collect pop culture stuff, iconic
Yep.
stuff, and so they're like, yeah, I never had anything MJ, never had anything Kobe.
Mm,
Remember this guy, when I was younger, this guy was a baller.
correct.
They so happen can pair it with their Funko Pop or something. So
Yep.
so I find that yeah, Malaysians generally like to collect stuff that lures them or makes them
Mm,
remember something. But if
yep.
it's always just like, oh, following comms, following the market price and all that, actually then we're pricing these people out.
Yeah.
And a lot of times like it starts from this, right? Like picking up a piece that, oh, this was my first slab that I ever had. And it's a player that I like. Who know, couple of years later, they themselves might be a vendor. They themselves might be like, oh, I'm serious Kobe collector now. Kobe's cards are crazy nice, things like that. Yeah, I see that nature in Malaysia. I think there's a whole lot more for that to go on.
Yep. Yep.
So I guess that's one half of the attendance. Okay, so then we come to the other half where we get we're just focusing on sports at the moment. We'll come to TCG in a second now. Okay. For the other half of the sports is when, when I was talking to Carlos, we have a bunch of guys from Philippines who are coming. Okay, we have people from Singapore. I'm not sure or not whether we're gonna get anybody from China this time around. I'm not too sure because the last round they came, I don't think they did much. So I'm not sure whether they'll make the trip again. But if they do, right? So obviously the stuff that they bring are quite, on the more higher level. More something, not the kind of cards that what the people that we just, you and I just described just now will be able to, not say they're not interested, but it's just a bit more expensive. Okay. So I'm just a bit curious whether or not, this time around, will we see more of that, more of these bigger dealers coming in from Philippines, from China or from Singapore, because even though they may not attract the regular foot traffic, because the foot traffic are likely will be people that we just talked about earlier, okay, But will they be here to forge that kind of deals between dealers like what we saw in Macau, right? So it doesn't work if let's say there's just one or two, or if let's say there's just people from Philippines because it's just effectively having a show in Philippines. But it would work if you have more from China or from Singapore, from Philippines as well, together with some people from KL. lah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good question.
So that's what I'd be interested to see actually this time
Yes,
around.
yes. I think that there is some of that going on, which is why like the local push is actually necessary. Like for us, we have mutual friends. Like let's take Carlos for example. Like because he knows you, because he knows me, it's like there are possible deals to be done even before the show.
Yep.
And we've already been chatting. And great that he's also one that he does media as well, and he has his YouTube channel as well. So people are aware that there are international vendors coming for the KL show. So yeah,
Yep.
I'm hoping that has already started conversations among vendors, among players in the scene, and it will be great to hear. Like we are aware that Carlos is also traveling to other places. We've not been to any Indonesia card shows, for example.
Mm-hmm.
We've not been to Bangkok as well. Even though as far as Yole collectibles, we have gotten invitations already from Dubai, from Bangkok.
Yep.
But I don't know if I would be going anytime soon because I don't know the scene enough and
Correct.
I don't have any connection. Like I think the initial connection is really, really important. Yeah, so mingling with people like Carlos and other international collectors, there's definitely that aspect to the show that is necessary. Very, very
Yep.
important.
Yep.
Yeah, moving things across regions and being like
Mm.
big pieces in a hobby. It's a huge thing in a hobby. Like without those, the hobby has no bigger goal, I would say,
Yep.
think bigger to target or move forward towards. So I think that, being very gentleman in the negotiations, in the deals, especially with foreign vendors,
Yep.
that one we have to play a good job as the host nation, I believe.
Yep. Correct. So I guess that probably takes me, to touch on a bit of my strategy for this particular show. So obviously, I mentioned I don't have any cards. I'm not going to put any cards for sale. So I'll be doing, of course, a buying from our station. Lah. Okay. But one thing that I really wanted to do for this show was actually to mix around with all these foreign vendors that we just mentioned, the guys coming in from all sorts of countries, because I wanted to, because they actually fly over, they make the trip, with whether they have expectations to make deals or not, I'm not sure, but that's something I would like to find out. Okay. Because if the region, right, because not everybody flies around everywhere to go for shows or to set up in shows, right? You and I, we have done it. But I wouldn't say that, anybody else in Malaysia is actually doing that. Okay. So, but if we know from the different countries who are actually very active at doing so, that actually forms a little regional, community of active dealers. We call ourselves dealers, okay, that potentially will go around to the different parts of this entire region. So like for example, right, if let's say we consider ourselves very active, Yellow Egg and Card Boss will always be, attending shows that's within region. So you will definitely see us in Thailand, you do definitely see us in Indonesia, you definitely see us in Philippines, for example. Okay. Same goes for, this guys from Singapore. Same goes for these three guys from Philippines. So we know that there is this group that's always constantly filling up spots in these international shows within the region. And that's good because if a show, being set up in those regions have the backing of these bigger group of dealers that travels around within, that gives them the more confidence to actually to expand on their show. Because right now I think it's a little chicken and egg game, because show organizers, tend to be, they of course they welcome as many, the more the merrier, obviously, right? But but nobody wants to commit to a show which they're not even sure what kind of crowd that's gonna come. And crowd comes in two forms. One is the local people, the foot traffic that we have, and also who are the kind of vendors that's going to come in, because the vendors also do deals among each other, right? So if there is a good group of vendors, international vendors that travels often within the region, right, that will actually encourage, organizers to, set up shows, whether bigger, more frequent, better, and things like that. So that's what I want to uncover in this particular show.
Yeah, I certainly hope so. Learning from like our Hong Kong buddies, like great friends having two shows a year, and
Yep.
that doesn't happen by accident, right? Like if they have two shows and one always don't have a lot of movement, no crowd, then it's difficult to build on a momentum. But I guess they have a more mature scene there and encourage the shops and the vendors to participate and do that. But yeah, for the international scene, yes, there needs to be a lot of that going on. I do see some of that happening. That's just from my experience, because like there are a bunch of other Filipinos that wanted to come, but they're not able to because actually it's election period.
Mm.
But because they have a few countrymen that are coming, there's a lot of like, oh, could you do me a favor? Could you like bring my East card to pass to whoever in Malaysia or pass to another vendor in Malaysia? So um that is an interesting part of the hobby, because sometimes when you want to deal a big deal, you don't want to ship the item maybe, uh, because anything can happen.
Yeah,
Card,
person.
yeah, I look at like card shows as like a checkpoint where those things can happen and happen at
Mm.
a, a way that you feel good about it, like both the buyer and the seller feel good about it, and you already kind of have that network. So it's like,
Yep.
well, I'll pass to our buddy, both sides feel good about it. Skip all the fees, skip all the shipping, and then at the show, shout out to who, and things like that. I think that's a very important part of hobby, because at the end of the day, the cards have no value without people. Yeah.
Of course, of course. All right, all right. So I guess we talk a lot about sports, right? I want to touch a bit on TCG. So from what I see on the SCACC IG, so lots and lots of TCG vendors. Okay, Pokemon, Flesh and Blood, One Piece, many. All right. So the last KL show was I would say is predominantly TCG lah, related. So again, I don't have the actual numbers, but I looking at it, I got a feeling that it's gonna be at least more than 50% TCG again for this particular show. Do you agree?
I agree. I agree. And a lot of new TCGs have been coming out of late. Talking to the newer shops, the younger guys, and then they're talking about TCGs I've never heard of, IPs that I'm not aware of, because maybe the background is like actually it came from some China MMORPG, for example.
Mm.
And the storyline led to like maybe a cartoon, maybe a comic, and then out come the TCG game, right? So they are very aware of it because they probably grew up with it. And yeah, those games are growing. There's a lot more official tournaments going on in Malaysia now,
Right.
not just others as well. And it's cool because when I talk with the shops, these, I guess, the community leaders aspect of these TCG games are actually really diligent at what they do. They're actually going to shops, trying to find shops that would you be a tournament host for this TCG
Right.
product, and
Right.
you'll get some goodies, you'll get some freebies, things like that. So yeah, so actually there's a lot going on. And when big shows happen, I guess
Mm-hmm.
as the growth happen in certain new TCGs as well, you would see them start appearing in the shows, not just Pokemon, not just the big ones. So that's an interesting take. So I think
Mm-hmm.
actually overall there's growth, whether TCG or sports. And I think for sports, the more people see it at these shows, that's what will, I mean, it's a perception thing. Even though yes, sports cards market is actually established in the global market. Like baseball is
Yep.
like 100-year history, that kind of thing.
Yep.
To see it in Malaysia, to see it in card shows constantly in Malaysia, that hasn't happened yet. It's happening. I think we're in the process of that. Yeah, but TCG is by far the majority.
Yeah, definitely. You know that there are other TCG shows already in KL, like just pure TCG shows, right? So this is of course on a much larger scale, and then combined together with sports. So I'm just wondering, if it feels that maybe like sports is kind of piggybacking on the TCG, pace in a sense, because sports, compared to TCG is definitely much smaller in terms of the market size. And also I guess the spending, it's quite funny if let's say talk about TCG, uh, people from the age of maybe between don't talk about kids because kids were supported by parents, right? But maybe in their early 20s to mid 30s, they spend a lot on TCG, and these are people whereby they are maybe just started their career, earning a decent salary, or maybe even just starting their families as well. But and they're very aggressively, putting a lot of money into TCG. But you find a lot of sports guys, in their maybe late 20s, early 30s or so, maybe even some, our age 40s already, still quite conservative at spending on sports cards.
True, very true.
Yeah.
I think it's an infrastructure thing, like a
Mhm.
backend support that TCG has the TCG companies really pushing it in our region. Just take Pokemon, like forget everything else. Just Pokemon can drive the market because the official regional tournaments and all that are held in Malaysia constantly.
Right.
Like every other month, there's an official tournament going on. So all the shops are in on it. All the live stream breakers are in on it. So there's that hype aspect as well, where it runs out really, really fast. Or like a product release is every like 2.5 months. It's insane. Like the new product
Yep.
comes even before people are very familiar with the set. Another new product or subset product starts coming out.
Yeah, yeah. It's what
So
we call you're trying to print money. So
so the hype
obviously they're
was
just trying to
off,
keep
but
on pushing more products out, as much as you can take.
yeah, and they're official distributors in Malaysia. So I
Yep.
think that a huge difference. Like there's no official distributor for sports cards. Basically down to the few shops, the few online flares that will bother to go and bring in on their own.
Yeah, sports is still very undeveloped in Malaysia, lah, in my opinion. I mean, we have collectors, definitely. We have fans for sure. Okay. But as a hobby, talking about how much money that goes into the hobby is still relatively small, lah, in my opinion.
I
Yep.
think interesting bit to share. Last year at Super Fractal, I forgot their name, but they're actually the like business development people
Mhm.
for, and they were just getting feedback from all the vendors on the sports scene here.
Mhm.
I guess they are aware that they should make moves, but it has to warrant them making moves. Tops have official distributorship here, but only
Yep.
for certain products. So it's like the more budget ones, and that's where you see them in MPH, Popular Bookstore, those kind of places.
Yep. Yep.
But you don't get Tops Chrome, you don't get the high end stuff. So on those high end products, there's no like real official distributorship push. So I guess it's cause we're not there yet.
Yeah, the consumption is certainly not there yet, lah, right? So it's not that, I guess, for example, right? I guess if you and I, we were to approach Tops tomorrow, say, look, we want to be official distributor in Malaysia, just example, right? Okay. And we think that we can do X amount of products a year, right? And they say, yep, sure. But of course, the pressures then come to us, right? Can we actually move those products? Because I still think that the consumption level is pretty low in Malaysia on its own now. So will that change? Maybe. I'm not sure yet. But of course, if you don't expose people to more products, or you don't grow the hobby in a sense, then it's hard. It's hard to grow without trying in that way.
Yeah, again, like you said, chicken and egg thing,
Yeah.
it will be like
Okay.
that for a while for sports at least. Like we're a soccer nation, right? Everybody knows soccer, what we call
Yep.
football, state teams and all that.
Yep.
But even then, really the products that really push is the tops match attacks,
Yes.
and the team specific ones, which are actually not the super valuable collectible stuff.
Yep. But that comes down to visibility, lah, because match attacks actually appear like in MPH bookstores, in popular, they're everywhere. They're in retail. So there's a lot of visibility and it's very affordable, right?
Correct.
You could buy a pack for like what, 4 ringgit or something like that, I think.
Yeah.
Yep.
So if,
Cool.
if it's a pack of top chrome, right, it's like who's gonna buy it? I'm just gonna
Yeah.
find suddenly like every day we go to the bookstore we're gonna whack this premium products. We're not there
Yeah,
yet.
that's the thing, like, let's say in US, you just come back to, let's say, basketball cards, a blaster box, right? In the US can cost anything between, I don't know, depends on the set. Okay, can be between $10 to $20 US dollars, okay, per box retail. And $10 to $20 is effectively, maybe 3-day meals, 3 meals in the US. Maybe one meal, let's say, $5 to $7 a meal. So it's times three. So it's like, one blaster box is 3 meals, right? A blaster box in KL, if you were to buy, it's going to cost you about like at least 80 ringgit, I think. 80 to 90 ringgit, a blaster box. Okay. Yeah. So 80 to 90 ringgit, right, is like what, 10 meals or more. All
Yeah.
right. So that's the disparity. When people look at it and say, hey, if I buy a blaster box, right, I can't eat for a week.
And it's difficult to get kids in, like,
Yeah.
that's actually where it starts most of
Yeah.
the time, ideally. So it's tough. Like we have to get the parents on board, we have to get the mom's approval and all those things. And it's like budget, like you can only buy one, like this whole event, you can only buy one.
And end of the day, people need more money, like, that's it.
But in America, anytime they go to Target, Walmart, you just pick up something, and so well.
Right. All right. So before we wrap up, so we just want to get your thoughts and just want you to share, some advice. Maybe firstly, maybe your advice to people who's gonna come to the show as visitors, right? So what whether they're coming to the show just to enjoy the vibe or whether are they going there to buy certain things that they want. What sort of advice would you give them?
I would say go with an open mind. Look at as many stuff you've never seen before. Kind of try and get a proper introduction to how uh big the hobby is actually. Although yes, we've been talking a lot like it could be bigger, it could be more mature, but we've come a long way, especially in the past couple of years. Even if like for sports we had to piggyback the TCGC, but at least it's happening. We do have top TCG players from Malaysia. So that's good. So when participants come, I think just participate, like any giveaways, any lucky draw, all of that. And even if you didn't have a lot of budget to buy a lot, but I think for the vendors that keeps us going, interacting with the people and trying to make their time worth the while. I think the organizers have already done what they can, and our event, to the scale it is, to me, it's super cheap, super affordable for this show. Like the 3 day pass is like 10 ringgit.
10 ringgit, yeah, man.
Like
It's
any
like two
oh,
dollars 20 cents USD for 3-day pass.
any other international show around you, other country, you're not going to see at that price. Like if we go to
Yep.
Singapore, it's going to be way more expensive. So I
Yep.
would think the participants is like it's a no brainer. Like you already pay and you have a very cheap entry. The organizers are having their promo campaigns, their giveaways, lucky draws.
Uh-huh.
Just go participate, and a lot of vendors are going to do that as well. I would think if any participants of this event watches this video, just go and like all our socials, follow us. It keeps us going, keeps us knowing that people are watching our journey as well. So that will grow the hobby. I'll just say keep an open mind, try to participate, um, and pick up something you like. It doesn't have to be expensive, but just whatever, just within your budget. Pick up something you like. Because in my experience, when you go to something new and you pick up something, that actually does something to your experience or to your
Yep.
brain, and
Yep.
you have a context. Like that's what card shows is. How vendors are, how the hobby is, and then from there, if you want to get serious, you kind of have like your genesis story of how you like all of us, older ones where we remember like, oh, back then this, back then that. I think that's very important. So yeah,
Yep.
just join anything, just be open to participate in all the activities. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. I probably would add to that just to say that, for even let's say this is your first time going to a show without any expectation of what to do there is mainly just to go and talk to all the dealers, talk to all the vendors, get to know what they're selling or what is it about, maybe you know a thing or two of Pokemon, or maybe you know a bit about sports, but you want to find out more, why is a car in a slab, what does the slab mean, I guess feel free to ask to learn to understand. That will pique your interest to know more and maybe to get involved as well.
Yep. Absolutely agree.
What about, vendors who are setting up in the show? Maybe let's assume it's their first time, right? So if let's say any of the new vendors who's coming to Malaysia, or in fact already in Malaysia, setting up the show for the very first time, do you have any specific advice for them?
Don't stress. Enjoy yourself. Don't set like unrealistic goals, and then as the day goes, and sometimes they are like flows to the day, maybe a
Yep.
certain hour there's like it's a little bit downtime. Don't get discouraged, don't get depressed. Mingle with your vendors left and right behind you. Really, cause end up those people are the ones that are going to form relationship with you in the hobby.
Yep. Yep.
And also, unfortunately, where there's greed and where there's money involved, there are some bad apples around.
Yep.
So just be very careful of your items,
Yep.
and make sure you only give access of your crew tags to people that people who look out for your stuff as well. So other than that, like enjoy the weekend, enjoy the whole show, get to know the organizers. That would help
Yep.
them keep them going as well. As we grow the hobby together.
Yep, awesome, awesome. I guess also to extend on that as well, definitely your point on to protect your belongings. That's very important now. Because don't take it for granted that everybody is over there and everybody's nice and everybody is I'm pretty sure that there are some people who might go there with bad intentions or just to take opportunity doing something that's not right. So always vigilant and take care of stuff. So that's good advice. The other thing I wanted to say was, like what you mentioned, get to know your neighbors as one. If the traffic's a bit slow for you, take a walk. Like go to the rest of the show, see what's happening, throughout the other halls, what's happening on the other tables. At the same time, to understand what else is what other things people are doing, how are they doing differently, maybe some learnings that you may have on how you can improve for the next show, for example, or even watch some of the interactions that's happening on those tables, some of the deals that's being discussed, some certain things that you can still pick up along the way. And so I think it's not just about camping at one spot and just waiting for the deals to flow in. It might, if you sell the right stuff, it could be a non-stop busy weekend for you, which is great. But if it's not, take the opportunity to try to, find other means to get some learnings throughout the weekend.
Yeah, yeah. Like just going same thing, as participants for vendors going with an open mind, like
Mhm.
because there are many different ways to do this, and we all start with what we have. Like whoever that opens a shop or they think that I want to start vending, but then you meet others and you're like, oh, I never thought of that, or I never knew this kind of way to do it. Or even to the very practical things like where do you stick your price sticker on the slab?
Is there a right spot to stick on your slab actually?
Interestingly, I never thought it was important till when I set out at places where there's like limited space and I have too many slabs.
Okay.
So then you kind of need to start stacking where the right corner is more visible because that's where most of the grading are.
Okay.
The right top corner. So
The right
if
top corner, you're referring to PSA slabs, I think, right?
yeah, so let's assume it's all PSA slabs lah.
Yeah.
Then it's top right corner. And I found that was an issue with one of my earlier shows where all my press tags were on the left. So then when
Okay.
I want to stack them like a little bit on top of each other to save space, right?
Yeah.
The slabs that are on top always keep blocking the price of the slabs behind.
Oh,
So then
okay.
yeah, I realized that then I should stick the price tag at where the right corner is as well. So then I can
Right.
layer it
So
this
you,
way.
you're saying that you're not stacking one on top of the other means from let's say from left to right. Is that what you're saying when you're
Yeah.
stacking on top of each other?
Like you kind of fan it out a little bit and
Yeah, you fan it
so
out,
you
right? So it's from
get
left to right, something like that.
yeah. So I realized that one show I found out nobody could see the prices because my prices were on the left.
Right. Right.
Yeah. Just the very little things. It's very interesting like how you see and then I went to like a show and this Pokemon guys because they had so much inventory. But wow, they arranged it very neatly, very nice and people didn't need to like, oh, can you like move that? Can I have a could you like move it and I want to see the whole card kind of thing.
Right.
And it just could browse and view everything. So there's something I'm not doing right because I find myself, everyone asks question, I need to open, bring out one. I'm wondering why can't they see the card? I'm like, oh, I'm seeing it from my view, like, because I
They
know the
can't
card.
see it.
Yeah. And then I'm like, oh, okay, it's a price tag issue. I never thought about it. It's a price tag issue, man. I need to start sticking at the right place. Yeah.
Right. The one thing I learned was actually I did that for the Hong Kong show was actually the price tag usually you have the white color stickers, right? That you get that thing to type out the price tag. So obviously PSA slabs and most of the cards, sometimes that sticker gets lost, right? Especially if you're gonna put it near the label. So for me it's like get fluorescent stickers.
Right. Yeah, yeah. So it's
Yeah.
a bit easier on the eye.
Yeah, so I always use fluorescent stickers to put it so straight away, boom, you can see, that shiny color, on so that people can tell straight away, how much is it.
Yeah, I actually did a similar thing, but with those supermarket price guns, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I switched out using white ones to yellow ones.
It works. It works as well. I guess just the regular white ones are a bit hard to see.
Exactly.
Cool.
So yeah, small things like you learn from it.
All right, cool, man. So before we close it up, is there anything else you wanna say before we prepare for the big show in a couple of days from now?
Yeah, I've been enjoying our time doing the pod. I guess for all your supporters and those who watch your channel, like keep the questions coming. Ask as
Mhm.
many questions. That really helps our conversations to keep going on. And also for us to be aware, like what are people concerned about
Yep.
in the hobby or for sports, like in a particular sport. Because although we've been in for some time, but there might be new stuff happening, right? Or new things developing. So yeah, just ask as many questions. We have fun, figuring out and knowing how to put that questions in our experience as well as we go for shows, as we deal with others. So it's a very interesting thing to hear others' thoughts on their collection and the hobby as a whole. Yeah, that's the thing I would sign off with. Yeah.
So final piece is for you guys who's coming to the show this weekend, come and look for Jason and myself at our booth. I can't remember what's our booth number, but look for the Yellow Egg Collectibles booth. We're going to be there the entire weekend. Come chat with us. If there's some stuff you're going to look to pick up, come and check it out as well. And if you've got stuff to sell, we're always open to buying stuff. So once again, thanks again, Jason, to spend the time today. And looking forward to chat with you again in the future. And thanks to you guys for watching this channel. Till the next one. Kabos out.